We'll call the meeting to order at 6:07. Ask you to please stand and join us in our pledge of allegiance. Mrs. Wyler, would you do?
One nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
The audience not have an agenda. Majority of it, okay. So as Mr. State mentioned, a little delay, we've got copies coming for you. We'll proceed with our regular business. Then we'll hold off for the budget workshop. We'll have the board make their decision as to which direction we're gonna go for the next year. And we'll entertain questions right after public to be heard. And at the end of the regular agenda, we'll open the floor for public participation again. Okay, so Mr. State, if you would, we'll go to Board of Education Subcommittee reports.
Sure. So the Curriculum and Instruction Committee will meet within the next month. It'll probably meet February or March or early April. And the Policy Committee, that meeting is scheduled for 5:30 for the next board meeting on March 28th. 24th. And that's it for the subcommittee.
Okay, how about your superintendent's report?
Sure. So as you probably all know, Friday, March 20th is a superintendent's conference day. So the staff will be engaged in a lot of professional development, including topics like special education law, artificial intelligence. There will be a lot of team meetings. There will be vertical and horizontal grade meetings and some Title I reading presentations. So we got a full day for staff on superintendent's conference day. Moving down, you can see the board candidate petitions are due Monday, April 20th by 5 o'clock at the superintendent's office, district office. And so if anyone is interested in running for board candidate, you need to pick up a petition, and that's when they will be due, April 20th. If you are interested, there is a Zoom presenting information on being a board candidate, and it's called How to Become a School Board Candidate, Education Candidate, and What You Need to Know. And that will be on St. Patrick's Day. And board members, for the OHM Cooperative Board, we will be again voting for one of our board members who serve on BOCE's Cooperative. That's a 3-year term. Shabani distribution, there will be a parent square message out this weekend, just giving the details on the next Shabani distribution, which is March 20th. Again, that's a superintendent's conference day where we will not have students here that day. And that night, we invite you to the middle school for the PTO's middle school March Madness. And that is all I have for the superintendent report.
Mr. Staten, I want to refer to item 9 on the agenda that the board will have to either approve or not approve. And that is the approval to assume operation of the universal pre-K program. Can you elaborate a little bit? I know there's been some questions throughout the community, just in general, if that's possible.
Sure. So for the last few years, the Small Blessings community-based organization has operated the UPK program. And so it is our desire and intent to assume operation of the UPK program, which will allow us to hire the teachers, and then they can work much more closely with our teachers. We can begin the intervention process earlier, utilize our support staff quicker, and just identify students, provide more support, essentially, because it's operated under the district's governance instead of an outside agency.
And there's a proposal in the governor's budget to support that. That's not coming from our current funds, correct?
Correct. She wants to increase funding for UPK operations. In fact, eventually she wants to make it mandatory for all schools to offer UPK. That's not mandatory right now, but under the proposal, eventually she would mandate all schools to operate it.
And an all-day program?
That is what we're looking at. Past year, Small Blessings ran 2 full-day programs, and that is what we are anticipating offering next year.
Lottery or no need to have a lottery?
Depending on the enrollment number, but right now, what we project our enrollment, I don't anticipate that we need to do a lottery. Our intent is to take in every student that desires to be in the program.
I appreciate that, and I think that should answer some of the questions that have been circulated through this.
So on that note, so we have to submit an application to SED for approval. So one of the first steps is getting the information out to the community. Next step is for the board to vote on that resolution. And then that's just part of it, as I said, a big application. Ultimately, the state department needs to approve us taking control of that, but we anticipate that does.
And one last thing that I was asked, no transportation for pre-K, right?
Oh, they already ride the bus.
They do.
Yep, they ride the buses and would be on the elementary.
November first,
I'm sorry?
if before, right, like December first, right, bus tickets.
That sounds accurate.
3-year-olds can have. Okay, any other questions? All right, now we'll move on to our agenda. I'll look for the board's approval to approve 8.1 to 8.35. 8.35. I will read 8.1 to 8.35. If the board member has any questions or concerns, please bring it to our attention. 8.1 is looking for your approval of our new athletic director for the 2026-27 school year. 8.2 is looking for your approval of the title of Director of Instructional and Business Services. 8.3 is looking for your approval of a retirement. 8.4 is looking for the approval of a teacher. 8.5 is looking for your approval of another retirement. 8.6 is approval of another retirement. 8.7 is looking for your approval of a resignation. 8.8 is looking for your approval of a laborer. 8.9 is looking for your approval of a resignation. 8.10 is looking for your approval of a new bus driver. 8.11 is looking for your approval of a substitute teacher. 8.12 is looking for your approval of a retirement. 8.13 is looking for your approval of a permanent teacher aide appointment. 8.4 is looking for your approval of a permanent teacher aide appointment. 8.15 is looking for your approval of a permanent teacher aide appointment. 8.15 is looking for your approval of a permanent teacher aide appointment. 8.17 is looking for your approval of a substitute teacher. 8.18 is looking for your approval of a long-term substitute. 8.19 is looking for your approval of a mentor. 8.20 is looking for your approval of a resignation. 8.21 is looking for your approval of additional athletic appointments for the 2025-26 current school year. 8.22 is looking for your approval of public hearing for May 12th and May 19th, both 2026, for the annual meeting and budget vote. 8.23 is looking for your approval of the election coordinators and inspectors. 8.24 is looking for your approval of the appointment of election officials. 8.25 is looking for your approval to approve the authorization of the board clerk to fill the alternate election official seats. 8.26 is looking for your approval of the appointment of a chairperson to report results of the vote. 8.27 is looking for your approval to adopt the 2026-27 school calendar. 8.28 is looking for your approval of the Board of Education representatives to the BOCES Cooperative Board. 8.29 is looking for your approval of a resolution for the COSER 602-7710 with the Rick Center. 8.30 is looking for your approval of the agreement authorizing participation in Oswego County BOCES purchasing program. 8.31 is looking for your approval of the budget modification. 8.32 is looking for your approval of the minutes of our February 10th, 2026 meeting. 8.33 is looking for your approval of the treasurer's report dated February 28th, 2026. 8.34 is looking for your approval of a resolution authorizing payment of bills as approved by our claims auditor. And 8.35 is looking for your approval on the Committee on Special Education and Committee on Preschool Special Education recommendations. Board of Education members have any questions on any of the above? Mr. State, I know you have a couple comments you want to add.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So first of all, you'll see a lot of retirements on this agenda. This is not all the retirements, but this is a bunch here. So, thank you to Keith Hatch, Patty Monaco, Mary Stout, Laura Loomis for your time. I think if my math is correct, we've got over 85 years of service to the district. So thank you for the many years here for those staff members. I just want to say very quickly, 8.2, approval of the title of Director of Instructional Business Services, just if there are any questions. By creating that position, that is going to allow us the flexibility of reducing an administrative position, if that's a direction that the district is keen to take. And it probably is so. That position, again, just allows us to reduce an administrative position. And finally, I just want to say thank you to all of our athletic appointments, our coaches, especially our volunteer coaches. So that's a thankless job. Referees, you guys know this, it's a different climate we're in these days. So thank you to everyone that's involved in the athletics department. I think that is it.
Board of Education member, any comments? I need a motion to approve 8.1 through 8.35. Mr. Seckel, second.
Before you go further, Tony, I'm gonna abstain 828.
Yes, I was going to do that. Thank you. Who can? TJ?
Yes.
Mrs. Familia? Any discussion? And the only discussion I had is I will relieve myself of item that pertains to me in particular as opposed as representative. Thank you, Marie. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone against? Motion is approved. Are we ready?
Ready as well.
Okay, we'll move on to our budget presentation for the meeting.
You can take a minute to share this because I want the audience at home to be able to see this, and it will be posted to our website after tonight. We apologize for not being able to display it up on the screen here. Hopefully you all have a hard copy of the presentation. Okay. Stand up only because I do better standing than sitting, or maybe I don't do that good either. So the first couple of slides are really just a rehash of where we were last board meeting. Tonight we're really here to talk about how do we close that gap. You were here at the last board meeting of about $1,031,000. Here's the preliminary budget on the expenditure side, $28,495,000 presented a month ago. I don't know what the best way is to stand that to different people. I apologize. You can see that salaries are almost flat. What's been removed from there is just my salary as a retirement. And then the people that are leaving the district, the breakage from the instructional employees that are retiring this year that we know about. So with those things taken into consideration, there's almost no increase to salaries. Benefits has a fairly substantial increase. Increase to health insurance is going up over 10%. Increase to the ERS contribution is going up 9 to 11%. BOCE is another one that's up. It was flat, very close to flat from 24-25 to 25-26. This year, we're experiencing some increased use of BOCEs, primarily at placements of special education students. So that's catching up with us. BOCEs is one of them that's going up. Contractual supplies and equipment staying almost flat. As I said at the last board meeting, difficult to keep some of those items flat, but we really need to go into 26, 27 with the mindset of we can't spend any money on anything that isn't a necessity. As I think I said, get the kid, keep the kids safe, keep the buildings clean, get what the teachers need to run their classrooms. But beyond that, it's going to be, in my opinion, a no frills year in 26, 27. And you'll see some of that, I think, when we look at some of the recommended reductions. Debt, some of it's coming on, but basically going over that with our financial advisor staying flat, and then athletics and co-curriculars up. We've added some programs. There's an increase to the officiating contract in 26, 27 is going up, I think 17 or 18%. So there's the increases there. So overall, an increase on the expenditures of 4.81%. And how do we pay for that? Next slide. Not a lot of options for revenues for a school district, as you're aware. State aid, preliminary number that I'm budgeting is $16 million. And I want to caution people that got the governor's number. There will be a finalized budget in early April, probably. April 1 is the deadline. likely gonna overrun that a little bit. Even if we do, reports are that we're getting more state aid, more foundation aid, because it's gone from 1% increase to a 3% increase. Some of that's already factored in, and I'll show you that on the next slide. Other revenues decreasing. We're looking at our interest revenues are declining. As we know, interest rates are going down. Our refund from BOCES, they changed the process of how they give us the money. They give us the money back in the year up rather than holding it till the end. Last year, we had a refund of over $500,000. This year it was $219,000. We had budgeted $300,000 as a refund from BOCES in prior years. For 26-27, I'm recommending $200,000 for that number. So those are two of the major items in the other revenues that are declining. The reason for that $235,000 decrease there. We continue to appropriate $1 million of fund balance. We hopefully not use $1 million of fund balance, but to balance numbers, that's what we've done. And it gives us some flexibility in the budget because you cannot exceed your expenditure budget. So you want to have some room in there, and that's what the appropriate fund balance allows us to do. Plugging those numbers in, the tax levy that would be needed to fund a $28,495,000 budget is $10.6 million, or about a 14% increase to the tax levy. Tax levy of 14% would be unacceptable to, I hope, everybody in this room, at least to the 7 board members up here. I heard that last meeting. So if we go out at our tax cap would be 2.94%, but tax revenues should be $9,572,000. There's a gap of $1,031,000, and that's where we were at when we left this meeting a month ago. So how do we reconcile $1,031,000? Oh, before I get there, I do want to caution again. This slide is not in the information that's been handed out. It was given to the board separately. This is just a page of the governor's run. The top is 25-26. The bottom is 26-27. You can see the governor's number for 26-27 in yellow highlighted at the bottom, $16,025,000. $16,025,000 is her proposed revenues or state aid to Sequoia School District. Included in that is $280,000 of funding for universal pre-K. So that universal pre-K, as was discussed, will be not part of the general fund. It's moved over into a special aid fund. You take that away from the $16 million. What we're looking at in general fund monies right now is $15,745,000. Budgeted, I had $16 million. I had projected basically a 3% increase. So my caution is, budget approved in April, and we're getting 2% more. We're getting $190,000 more in state aid. We can save programs. I'm not so certain we can. I don't think we have any more money than the $16 million that's already budgeted in the general fund for state aid that we'll be getting, and we'll be fortunate to get that in 26-27. From there, the recommended actions to close that gap, and they aren't pretty. None of this is what is desirable for the school district. It's kind of like this is what we may need to do to keep the numbers in balance. So I'll kind of just go through them one by one. First items I talked about last meeting. When we held the last meeting, we had not yet received the commitment form from BOCES. We now have received that. We plugged in the real cost per contract, and that's looking at an increase of only $14,594. So I was actually kind of pleased with that number as being the increase based on my initial projection of a 5% increase across each line item from BOCES. From there, we have an energy performance contract in this summer. We're hoping that we will replace all of our lights with LED lights. We'll replace boilers in the middle school and elementary school. We'll have replacements to our energy management system. We're working with Day Automation. They've given us projections of some savings better than that, but those are the numbers that we feel comfortable using for 26-27 before we get the program off the ground. So we look to reduce those expenditures by $50,000 in 26-27. And I should say, ask questions as I'm going through this, raise your hand. I can certainly stop at any moment. Other revenues, interest income, I went from $1,050,000 to $825,000, I think the number was. So I'm going to be aggressive and say we're going to make $50,000 one way or another. We're going to have some more foster kids we can bill for. We'll certainly watch our cash flow as closely as we can. We'll invest as much as we can to receive as much interest income. But there aren't a lot of other options of where we get money from, but there's a $50,000 number there. Number 4 on here is running a district operated special education program, talking with Noelle, our CSC director. She's confident that there are a number of kids that are currently at BOCES that we can bring back, save us the cost of their tuition. There will be costs for a new teacher and teacher assistant or aide, paraprofessional in any case. So the net savings to that preliminarily is about $84,000. Next item, not fill the 5 instructional positions that are being vacated through retirements this year. So we have 5 positions. I probably missed these. Let me go to my notes. We have a math teacher who retired last year, who is here this year. So that counts as one of those 5. We have a health teacher. We have an art teacher. We have a 6th grade teacher, and we have a reading position. That's 4 or 5. One.
Forgot about.
So those are the 5 that are being anticipated. They are retiring at the end of the school year. We would not replace. And it is highlighted in red because you'll see at the top, these are items that are not easy, but they're potentially possible if we do the reshaping that's been discussed. On the next slide, we'll look at what happens if we are unable to bring the 7th and 8th grade to the high school building. Below that, there are 2 non-instructional positions. We have attendance clerk, and we have a teacher aide at the elementary school that are retiring. Again, retirements, we would propose not replacing them. Is it going to make things not ideal? It absolutely is. But it's kind of, this is the position we're in. When you get here and you're $1 million in the hole, you got to make it work somehow. And creativity and putting in a little extra is what's going to be necessary to do that. In addition to those, there would be 1 additional reduction of an elementary school classroom position. With the introduction of the UPK program, that individual would be able to go to the UPK, so they would not lose their position, they would not lose their tenure, they would not lose their seniority in the school district, but it would move them from the general fund over to that special aid fund where the universal pre-K program is accounted for. With the last meeting, we talked about the details for the salaries. I had positions being created for the UPK program. What it initially covered was just the salaries. What the additional $69,000 would cover is their employee benefits as well, which includes payroll taxes, employee system contributions, and health insurance. So if we do get the $10,000 per student and we get an enrollment of 35 to 38 kids, 35 kids, the funding would cover the salaries as well as the benefits for the program. So there's $69,000 currently residing in the general fund. Again, it could be moved over to the special aid fund. Distance learning, sociology, psychology. 1 section, we had two sections this year. We would look to eliminate that completely in 26, 27. The program would be able to be offered internally by our staff. What we would lose there is, I believe, the college credit for program being offered internally. And we have an O&M potential. It was a possibility. I talked with the facilities director and said, he's ready to make things work with 1 less person in 26, 27. We don't think that we would need to let anybody go. We have a person that's can go into the bus ride, be a bus driver. We have some other things going on. But if we can make that happen, we could save $55,000 in cost in the general fund. Looking at just a kind of a small number for the academic co-curricular, $15,000. And then we would see some income from BOCES if the reshaping does occur, net of about $150,000. We might use some classroom rentals in this building, we pick up that money over there. And there you can see the total of those is $1,033,000. If we had a gap of $1,031,000, that basically takes care of the gap of 26, 27. Nobody likes it. And anybody here likes it, even the high school, the middle school, and elementary principals are excellent individuals. They're not in favor of it by any means at all. Question?
Hey, now,
About $12,000 pay plan.
there's six total.
Sorry?
There's six total.
Yes. That's right.
Could you repeat the question so everybody can
The
hear?
question was, what does BOE pay per classroom right now? They pay about $12,000, $3,500 rent, another $6,500, $7,500 for ancillary costs. We use our copiers, our custodians, whatever they call this ancillary, but basically it's $1,200 per classroom. Any other questions on that? No, those ones. Yes, sir.
Yeah, on number 5, with our shape. I don't understand it.
Okay. So number 5. So the next slide is without reshaping, okay? So I'll answer that. So this is to eliminate 5 positions if we were to reshape. That would allow us to eliminate a math position based on teachers coming over to this building and covering courses grades 7 through 12 in this high school building. The next slide, if we do not reshape, there are a couple of items that go down because we would not be able to get by with one less math teacher. And there you can see everything that I just explained is the same except for number 5. Instead of not filling 5 positions, we would not fill 4, but we would need to hire that math position. So the savings goes down to $284,000 from, I believe it was $352,000 on the prior slide. So keeping 7th and 8th grade in the middle school would require us to have one more staff person than what we would have if we brought them over here, based on the proposed plan. The other thing, obviously, that would be missing would be the $150,000 from BOE. We would not receive the revenue for that, and that's the net number. So without that, and with the reduction of the staffing, reduction by 1, instead of balancing or closing that $1,031,000 gap, we're $814,000. We're still $216,000 away from having a budget that's balanced. Yes.
With the moving or not moving of a math teacher over, if we don't reshape, does that take into account the classes that Mr. Clyde is not going to be able to teach because he's also taking on the athletic director position?
It does.
It does.
Yes, yeah. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Brian, but I know Mr. Reed's gone through this thing upward, backwards, every way that you can. It isn't ideal, and he's the first one to admit it, and our principals will say that as well. But it's what we would need to do to make the numbers work, the money that we're doing, the cards that were dealt financially.
So, 100,000. That's what the Olson's going to pay for.
Yeah, close to 180, but then we're going to lose a couple of classrooms. So that's for 1 floor. Yeah. That's not the time to have a fair number for our newest building. It's.
Do they have other choices? Like, well, if you guys don't wanna go over what's wrong. Still we push that off a little?
Well, we will negotiate, sure. We did have an independent appraiser give us, what the fair market value would be for that. And it wasn't substantially higher than this number, I'll say. If there were a lot more suitors, perhaps, then we'd be in a better negotiation position. There aren't a lot of people that are looking for 12,000 square feet or 20,000 square feet in Sequoia at the moment, I'll say.
Looking for the reshaping, not filling 5 instructional positions. It's my understanding that the shape is going to just be 7th and 8th grade shift to the high school, but 2 of those 5 instructional positions were elementary based. So we're still not filling 2 elementary positions. Okay, so we're reshaping, so we're doing less with.
Yeah, in the elementary school, it's more a function of enrollment, yeah, not ideal. Class sizes will increase some, but those are the people that are retiring now, and we are able to make it work without telling somebody else to do that.
So if we added a classroom, $12,000.
Well, the question is, if we just added 6 more classrooms, it would be $75,000, let's say, yes. And keeping the ones we have, let's say, don't know that that's even an option on the table of both these. I think we've had discussions with them and Mr. Staten earlier that this is an offer that we can make at this time, potentially, if it's available, we can take it, and he said yes. We've tried for a number of years to say, can you take another couple of classrooms, in the elementary school and the middle school, and times they said yes until it gets right up to the edge, and then it's, we don't have any teachers, we don't have whatever we have.
Yeah, if you don't mind, I'll jump in. I mean, last year we considered, I guess 2 years ago, bringing 7 CPE classrooms into the elementary building. We gave them a whole wing, and unfortunately with transportation, that didn't work out. I mean, we've been exploring avenues to bring because some of the programs, they need to maintain a space altogether with those. They can't just piecemeal put them all across campus. But we tried and we're still trying. We'll continue to try it.
Seeing that rental income from BOE, do we have an MOU or anything with them now that if the board will make this move, that they would sign on with their?
Question is, has both these committed? Do we have anything in writing from them? I'm $150,000. The answer to that is no. I know there are assistant superintendents that both said time and time again to Mr. Staten and myself, we need to do this. It has to move forward. Counting on the word, that isn't certainly worth taking to the bank that way, but
I'll just say, I'm sorry, to jump in. I'll say that's intentional because if we went ahead and already signed a contract with them, that would be before we had the vote and took everybody's input.
I mean, an MOU is not a contract,
Right.
I'm saying.
We already have an existing room rental agreement with them for the current rooms that they, so it would be very similar to that template agreement. But as he said, we have the verbal commitment. I mean, there's no concern moving forward, but we just don't want to sign any.
yes. You know,
Process does BOCES go through to choose who they'll adopt to rent something? What other alternatives do they consider in addition to us?
I can't answer that question from BOCES then, you know, I know that they are struggling for space. I think the first thing that seems up there on Middle Settlement. Mr. Nick, I don't know if you were.
I heard that. It's a year-to-year decision. They rent space at New Hartford, Perry Junior High. They rent some space at Westmoreland. I believe it's the middle school there. They may have some classrooms in Clinton as well. But those are, they're isolated clusters of classrooms. And in our meeting today and yesterday, we've spent hours agonizing. We're leaving that door open. Their dreams to have a whole floor, but we have clusters of rooms in the 3 buildings, and we're willing to work with them to offer that opportunity. It came close to happening last year, but just as as Charlie mentioned, it didn't materialize because they couldn't find staff. So what's changed in the environment from last year to this year? You're still going to advertise. You couldn't find 4 special ed teachers last year. You couldn't find 4 teacher aides. How are you going to fill a floor full? But we're still leaving the cluster of 3-4 rooms open in each building. And that's an ongoing discussion. Does that answer your question, sir?
What governs their selection process?
I serve in the BOCES board, and it's usually just as we have in our agenda, we're going to Clinton for 4 classrooms. There's an established rate of contract that they're paid rent, and it's left at that. Their growth, their size, their enrollment from year to year will dictate if they're adding classrooms, status quo from year to year. It's subject to change sometimes right up until July and August.
What alternatives are they considering beyond us?
So I'll tell you, when I was there 3 years ago, I mean, they were looking at vacant buildings all over the region, confined region, and they just couldn't identify spaces to move. I mean, they've got a building down on Lincoln Avenue right now. They've got a building on Court Street down, the Brodock building. they're large spaces. Some of those leases are gonna run out in a year, and they'll have to renew. They don't know that they'll be able to. But as I said, 3 years ago when I was there, they were out of space and they were looking, so they're constantly exploring. So if we did not reshape this year, we're confident that they will still be looking in another year.
Excuse me,
We're in a pretty good spot.
did you have a question, sir?
No, I'm just responding to Heather because a friend of mine is on the roll board.
We can't.
Yeah, I don't want, I prefer that not to happen, but Mr. No, excuse me, I'd let him answer the question, please. Thank you.
So answer as well as we can. Yeah, no response. We're not clear on how they govern their choice. We don't know what alternative they're. Here I am.
Or any alternatives to work.
There are.
They can go for both teams, because we can't speak for their administrative process at all.
Well.
Yeah.
So I've got my answers.
It's so much is that maybe not be ready to make a decision and sign on something now in the past. It has been kind of kicked down, saying they're going to, and at the last minute. I also heard maybe sometime July and August they're making decisions. If this is voted on now and we go through with a budget based on the vote tonight, happens if BOCES doesn't follow through and go this, is there a contingency plan on our end for that money that we don't have? I understand what it's meant by.
So I guess my answers to these questions would really be, what, that 150,000 isn't in the bank, and I would agree with that. Problem being, if you remove 150,000 from the prior slide, we're $148,000 gap. Here we're at $216,000 gap. Certainly, I can understand the focus is BOCES may not come. We don't know that for sure, so you shouldn't make a move. From my perspective, and only from a business official's perspective, moving to 2 buildings is our only chance to have long-term financial potential stability. I don't even know if we're going to do it that way. I mean, Mr. Gilbert, I know it's going to show up one of these meetings. I tell you you're right. Should have gone out 7 or 8% a few times in a row, and maybe we'd be all right today. But 3 buildings with 840 kids, it just is not financially doable for the long term, is my opinion. Okay, my editing is done. I can understand the 150 isn't guaranteed, so we should not move forward with this. Okay, we'll go back to the other page. We'll zip out the 150,000. We've got $148,000 gap to deal with. We'll figure that out some way or another, and then it will be people. It won't be retirements at that point in time. And if you do it this way, it might be one more person. It might be 2 people on the prior side, and be 3 people on this slide. So I fully understand closing the building is not, or moving kids to the other building is not what anybody wants. Many people do not want, especially those that are in this room. But our numbers have declined substantially, and we really need to look at changing our platform. You know, the state is not coming through in the future, my belief.
I'm sure there be more questions to commit to just running that classroom thing instead of trusting that they're gonna wrap a whole form.
Well, I think depending on the direction that the board goes with the vote, they will have soon, this evening, at some point. You know, if we decide we're not going to bring this to this building, then there's going to be pressure in everywhere that we can figure it out to try to get more money.
So your numbers, guys, just want to make sure I'm checking on that right. $150,000 that we would get revenue for rent. You're like 15% for the industrial. That same $150,000 of revenue plus 3% at $5 million that we're sending both BOCES for home services. Okay, and then the $100,000 of revenue for the buildings. The calculator 0.005 1/2 1% for $28 million. So the changes that we're talking about for reshaping, is 0.5%.
If you just focused on $150,000, yes. Not argue that point, I think there's other things, you know, if we don't reshape to cover. If we still were to eliminate 4 positions. We keep the map position, and Mr. Reed, you should probably address this better than I do. The idea is, we're gonna be bringing people over from the middle school to cover a math class, we're gonna be bringing them over to cover an art class, to cover different courses. So it changes our programming too. You know, if you don't reshape it. 150 is gone. Another teaching position needs to be added back, so there's another $75,000. And then we look at how we serve the kids in the district going forward too.
Sure, and in previous meetings, you've gone this almost like it's the numbers or it's the kids, you can choose which. The first pitch was describing the advantages, middle school gets to get access to foreign language and things like that. We'll ensure that students are just kept separate. I haven't really seen much of what the consequences are for children in this shop around. We've had a bunch of number discussions, numbers look really small to me. So if there's these other qualitatives, where is sort of the gist of what those transfers are? This is a trade-off decision for.
So, I'm not gonna be popular, but this has to happen. This is a benchmark decision, all right? Move forward as a school district, we got to be structured. And for anybody concerned about kids, I went to a school where some, well, we're on one floor. And kindergarten through 6 were on another. It really was not difficult to manage the 7th grader with high schoolers. Consider myself high school. So that's just change management in that field. But the big thing here is just this 150, we can go for all this effort to make this decision. How permanent it is in a year. And we go backward because we're going to deal with heartache and change and all the things that are going to be difficult and they'll start to wane. It's not very pleasant that should just be flipped like a switch in 2 years or 1 year. And we went through all this effort, discussion and anxiety for nothing. So if you do something with both, I think we need to lock them in for a period of time. And have escalators in the numbers. So that you can count on, you can't count on the state of and not let them be able to have their way every 12 months. It's not fair to anybody in this room.
They have contracts for up to 5 years, and I believe that's the limit for.
But education, it's better than a year.
And that's what we would for 5 years. That's what it is. Coming over there.
We're gonna jump on, talking about defining spaces in all 3 buildings. On back to that, research does say that Southern Health is not the best situation. There's a level out there. Isn't unless you provide the research for that. But we're gonna dedicate a section of the high school. You're saying, is it a wing? Is it a wing?
I think that there will be a wing that will be based for 7th and 8th grade.
Couple floors.
Is that wing sufficient for both?
You're going to be out of line in middle school.
Nice.
There will not be any of those programs here.
No, you want to bring the session nature here. Is that wing sufficient for both for what they want? Right.
Well, I think it's.
In the middle school. That's where we place it down. Oh, I got it. You want to talk.
Say here. Why we won't. By preserving the development levels and making this full amount that we're looking
Understand now, thank you. perhaps that would be, I think in the end, it's the consolidating of the positions to serve our children.
You're talking about traveling teachers?
So if we don't consolidate, more than. Even if we do consolidate, I don't know if there would be any need.
I work in a district that we have traveling teachers and they have to like go to a whole entire different area. of the community.
Yeah.
We have one campus with 3 buildings. It's extremely convenient. I don't think anything with traveling teachers should really be concerning because we are on one campus. So that's something I keep trying to carry and I think like it's really not that big a deal to do that. And I work in bigger districts in the area.
When those teachers travel, we also have to give them travel time on the front and on the back, so you lose so much from that teacher's capability. The union makes you have time to travel time before and after. So for some teacher that could teach 3 classes, now they can only teach 1 because of the travel.
One position in the math position, that's what it comes down to.
And science.
In one time.
And art, I think art, math.
But you're right, Ms. Sherman, if we do not reshape, we will have additional teachers traveling and
Right.
they'll have, yeah,
Yeah.
that's.
Just, I think it's something that my district are used to, so I just think it's a big deal. Especially on one.
Just a question where we are in the meeting. Are we in the public comment period or?
We are.
Budget here,
It's a comment, public hearings in regards to the budget, yes.
Questioning the budget presentation.
Yeah.
Please.
Okay, thank you.
But I will say honestly, the budget presentation, there are a couple more slides on there to talk about, the number of buses that we're going to potentially, we'll have a separate proposition for. And give you a little more information on the capital outlay projects. I think those will be the next 2 slides. And then the last slide is actually just a carryover from last meeting. So, yeah.
What's the, that were used to figure these
2.94.
we've gone by.
I had 2 years ago when I held some position go federal money.
We were to not reshape, okay, because that's what we're not to reshape. And it's different for 215 versus 1600 in our favor, probably have to be up all the time. It would be a 5.
Yeah.
Charlie, will you share with the room what happens if we go out beyond the cap and we voted no?
Right, well, I think, yes, so we go beyond the cap, our cap calculated to 0.94%. We go out above that, we need 60% of the people that vote to approve it. If they don't, then we go back to our levy of this year, so 9 million, we got to go back a couple slides, I think, but we lose the $200,000+ of additional revenue, or what most likely happens is the board will go out and propose one more budget if we could vote on in June. Answer that.
But the second vote is not.
The second vote goes down, then you have to, you can only levy what you levied this year, 25, 26.
There's one more question.
Is the $150,000 for the whole building or is it a certain number of classrooms?
I think there's 13 classrooms in the first floor, so it's basically the first floor.
As I said, on the building, one program on operating costs, what's the number for that?
Typically, we do not have that, so the idea would be, if we do, what are we eliminating?
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. If you move other spending into another, and there was no consolidation, means that's it. 50,000 operating.
I just looked at that, and I'm curious to know. Fair question.
But then you're down to 100,000. Not of the overall, but and I appreciate trying to build as much as that. How to do it. It's just like seems like a lot for now.
I think it's just the reality of those positions and how can you either proposal here at least says 4 or 5 positions. Not only is it the revenue and balancing the budget, getting closer to balancing the budget, but it's what that stuff that. Again,
And then also, the chief talked about too, like, if BOCES has pulled out, you know, in the past or hasn't come. And then maybe you vote on something, you know, vote for it. And then when it comes to like 50,000, just to say they didn't change their mind at that point. You're just happy to get a deal, that you try to close the budget gap. And now it's not worth it at that point. And I really do feel like it, tax levy wise, increase tax gap at all, but it just doesn't seem to be like spreading out 100,000, maybe 150, we don't know, over the community. I don't think the community really care. I really don't, over potentially something, because we don't know. We're just kind of kicking numbers around for a deal, and all things you had mentioned too, you both like in the past, the state. It may be 7%. So I'm just saying the 150, it doesn't get the job done. Something, it's not nothing, but it doesn't get the job done overall. Is that fair?
It is, I think, but it's more than that is. And I sit in the meetings and these folks know how this can work. The idea that really, that I come away from there is the kids are being served a lot better if they're run this building. As far as the staffing, services that they can receive. Brian, maybe you can answer that better than I.
I think the idea is that the argument for the reshaping is that it's a long-term plan. And I think we've talked a lot about just next year, but it's savings over multiple years for a variety of reasons. So if you look at just teachers who are certified at the secondary level, they're certified to teach students in grades 7 through 12. If we have some teachers in the middle school, they can only teach students in 2 grade levels in that building. If we have other teachers in the high school, they can only teach students in 4 grade levels in this building. You bring them together, now there's more scheduling flexibility. So you can plug gaps better so that when somebody does retire or resign, there's a greater likelihood that you can reduce through attrition responsibly in a way that doesn't really negatively affect your program. And that's the situation that we have with math. Whereas if we don't, we cannot eliminate that position and still maintain a high quality math program. So we have to hire somebody else. It's just not the most efficient way to use staff. So that's the argument with regard to staff. And I think the other idea is the potential for both you and Mr. State referred to this. There's leverage for them. There's strength for them to be able to have a whole floor, and then potentially expand into that middle school space further, which is what we talked about before. So potentially again, increase revenue through a greater footprint in that building by expanding the lease. So there's potential. So this isn't just the 2026, 2027 plan. It would be the argument is that it's a long-term plan. Potentially increase the footprint of the lease, increase revenue that way, and also to utilize staff more efficiently. But again, these are very tough decisions. You know, as it is, we're already proposing a lot of reductions, but the reality is the alternative isn't to keep things the way that they are, because we have to reduce many positions. If we're still in 3 buildings, now we're doing that with less people, and it's just less of an efficient use of resources. Again, is the argument for the staff. If that helps.
Yeah.
Are we just going to dice what programs are going in there, or do we know specifically what programs are going in there?
BOCES has told us it would be special education programs. But it would not be behavior programs. There would not be, timeout rooms. That's not the type of program that we're looking to. That would depend. I mean, as Mr. Reed stated, BOCES might want to increase their footprint immediately. They might not, and it could go a couple of years there, or we might just as a district determine, we want 5th and 6th back into the elementary code. So we would have some flexibility there. We would have some flexibility on when we move them back. That would be a decision, a year-to-year decision that we would decide. Part of it would be our decision, part of it might be BOCES with a desire to take over the whole building if that's the direction that we move.
This might be a simple yes or no. You just approve a capital project.
could we hold off some of those? Part of that, for the funding, or relax it?
Pull up on some of the initiatives in the capital project. Yeah, I mean, most of that work will not happen until summer 27. You know, lighting replacement will happen hopefully this summer, that's the plan. And boilers, those things, but other than that, the rest of the capital project will happen 2 summers from now.
Well, I think that's the one that can't reappropriate that.
Oh, yeah.
That money is just for improvement, we can't utilize that for education purposes at all, or hiring or any of this, that's just for lights instead of.
Are we running summer school this year?
It's unlikely.
That's
It's a possibility.
pretty decent source of revenue last year.
It's a possibility.
What would prevent us from holding?
Spanta, if we move forward with reshaping, we may not have the capacity because we would be in the middle of moving classrooms. If we don't reshape, we absolutely are going to plan to host summer school. Even if we reshape, there's a potential to host summer school, but if we don't reshape, it's very possible that we'll be hosting summer school.
Yeah, you check my numbers, let's say, I paid $50,000 in taxes. You're already gonna increase that by 2.94%. So that'll be about $360. For 3%. And then, if we don't do the reshaping, 100K spread across, the 2%. So that 2%, I'd be throwing in, what's the? Usually correct, $180.
But I think, focusing on, if we can eliminate this $150,000, we shouldn't do this, I mean,
Yeah, we're only focusing on the finances,
Yeah.
not your resources. It's a puzzle, guys. It's not $150,000 by itself. It is a puzzle. There are a lot of pieces that go into one another. It's programs, it's curriculum, it's shared resources, it's financial. It is a puzzle.
And we haven't really talked about how to reach out to housing. And so we're only talking about the numbers, that's all I have.
We did. We talked about how we would have to move certain teachers to go over and they would cover up on other subjects for the older students because we're losing a math teacher. So that's a shared resource. So that is part of the puzzle we did talk about.
I mean, there's revenues that have not materialized through this slide. I don't think I gave you guys. That was from the last meeting, but basically, if the state came through with 3% per year, I think it'd be okay. There, we have $600,000 more from the state. We only have only have $400,000. If we raise taxes over 5%, 2, 3, 4 years in a row, that would build money too. Generally, that's not what districts are in favor of, tax increases. And I'm not confident that this governor is going to say, let's start giving districts that are receiving more in funding than the formula says they should.
You corrected my math, $180, straight up for the 2.94%. The extra 2% is about $100. For the non-regime.
Okay.
That, you correct my numbers, so if the 2.94% is $180, which I'm making, then the extra 2% would be about $4. But
Wondering what the revenue was from being summer. We did host summer school, what was that?
About $25. Had a whole middle school, I think, and
nice.
and the high school. Not huge. I mean, it's less than $1,000.
I just want to look down the line here, just for local 2 months of today, $1,077,000 out of the fund balance. Last year, and again, budget this year.
We will likely touch it this year. I didn't give you that slide, but I'm projecting, we've had a good run. Money from the federal government as a result of COVID over the last 3 or 4 years has allowed us to build up our fund balance. Our special education numbers, they've been stable and gone down this year, they spiked. So honestly, we're not going to use $1 million, but we're probably going to use $400,000 or $500,000. So this is the first year where
Or if we had to keep earmarking $1,077,000. How many more years can we go before we can't do that? And so, this isn't about, this is about that we failed our budget for years. Yeah. And we don't have any birds to do that, but we have to make fundamental change. We'll have to do it. Period. It's gotta stop thinking about what it means to us individually. We have to think about what we as a community. And if people are gonna have to do change, it's part of what happens in the world today.
And as superintendent has said, we can either take the bull by the horns and do the best we can to take the changes that we have control over for 2 or 3 years from now when we're running out of fumes financially, saying we have no choice.
This is public comment.
We might as well fire it. That's all I'm saying.
My name is from. Most is quite positive. This. My kids are successful, bright, happy, because of this movie. I don't really care about it right now, one way or another. What I care about is that some kid, as the other will now, get to graduate from high school in this district. Because the people here, workers, teachers, are phenomenal. So you can argue $120, you can argue $500,000. Long term, are you gonna be here in 10 years? Because I am reading, I'd like to say, my grandkids are going to Sequoia, just like my kids. No, that's not happening, it's the old construction.
Had a conversation with somebody, and one of the early comments was, we're not that school district, another school district that has a K-5, 6, 12 building every week. They said, by bringing teachers to a building doesn't make Sequoia that school district. The teachers that are in Sequoia are phenomenal, and they're in that building or this building, kids are gonna still get what they need. Yeah. The walls, you know, many years ago, now, I won't go into many years. Go ahead, Matt.
I just want to say, this is not just this year. This year, we're looking at $150,000 extra revenue and saving positions. If we don't do this, next year, we could be looking at losing more positions. And 5% tax increase.
Well, no, there's no mistake about it. You're borrowing from our future sellers.
But 5% tax increase is not something that I want every year. You're not gonna kids to come, people I don't want to lose this. And the other thing, I as a graduate was quite careful. When I went to school, 7th to 12th grade, was in high school. I think I turned out pretty good. That's my opinion. However, and for this right now, like that gentleman said, we can't keep using our fund balance because aren't there consequences if your fund gets far below? Don't you go on some list that you're in danger? Because okay.
Yeah, probably get on that list.
It's not a big deal. But if we can avoid that and save jobs that we have, although a 5% tax increase may not be a lot to someone, losing $70,000 a year because we lost our job is a lot to people here. And our kids like to get a good education. And one thing I don't want is I do not want to have to face a decision could quite consolidate with somebody else. That is one thing we've looked at before, we did it with Chavez. I don't want to do it again. That's my opinion, but I agree that our enrollment is not what it should be. The chances are it won't be that, so we need to do something to save our teaching positions, to save our level of instruction that we do have for kids, and to keep us point out.
I think we're kind of going in circles at this point, so it's really not me telling you any new information.
I just want to make a comment. You make some valid points about property tax. So you're right. We just had a 5.5% increase. You know, we absorb that. We just approved a lot of money to fix things for the school. Taxes are gonna go up from that. Let's say we do 5.5 again, great. But it's gonna be 5, then what? So is there gonna be another 5.5 next year? Because everyone's talking about 150,000, I'm looking at 216,000. That's the number that I'm looking at, because that's the gap. Listen, we're not voting, no one's get a decision about what we're going to do. But if people are gonna be getting pink slips, and then we gotta hook up with $216,000, and everyone's gonna be sweating for the next 2 or 3 years, that's a lot. It's a lot, and I don't know who feels, I can kind of see non-verbally who feels how they feel. But, you know, that's your right.
Mr. Tlapi.
Charlie, I have a question that I don't see here, and I'm sorry, I wasn't, my daughter's basketball game was at the last one, so I'm sorry if you talked about it there. This is a proposed 4.8% increase for this year's budget. Going back, let's say 5 years, what's the actual increase in our operating budget for the last 5 years?
I would say less than 2% most years, we don't have that off the top of my head.
Yeah, that's, okay,
Yeah.
so we average around 2 or 3%.
Yeah, and I think with most of these adjustments, either plan, you know, we're looking at reducing some expenditures.
Yeah.
So we'd be down in the 2.5%.
And the reason I ask that is, I'm looking at the, you know, taking out the postage, the 850,000 that the changes that the board has already done or proposing to do. And that's $1 million, just trying to, I'm not the math guy. But if we're looking at a 2 or 3% increase every year, and what that represents for losses and adjustments going forward.
Yeah. So yeah, 2%, percent is 95,000, let's say, going forward on taxes.
Oh, I'm not even talking about taxes. I'm just saying, assuming, you know, if we have 850,000 that you're proposing, and the board's proposing and reshaping outside of BOCES, given the 2.94% increase, and let's just assume that will work with. 850, I'm not going to pretend to be able to do that math, but that means every year we're going to be looking at hundreds of thousands of dollars of reshaping costs just to balance our budget.
Can I make one more comment? Has anybody recent kids who graduated here? So my daughter walked out of here as a sophomore in college because she took dual credit. She had an opportunity to do dual credit classes through MBA, and we had AP as well. So I actually read the parent square that came out, and I read about Morrisville Eaton. Did anybody get a chance to get a look at those documents that were sent? So Morrisville Eaton doesn't even have AP. They have zero. They have nothing. They have bare bones. They're going to go with CAS. That's the new venture for them. But remember, Morrisville and Eaton one time said, "Hey, we have to consolidate and try to share resources." Well, how's that going now? They have bare bones, and this is happening to a lot of schools. So I don't know. I've been here 18 years. I don't want to be the Sequoia Mustangs. I don't know, because that's my market. But like I said, we're way ahead of ourselves. But it's just something to think about. And Rita, you got kids who graduated.
All my kids are very successful.
Yeah.
Graduated, and I encourage this board to support the reshaping plan. I really do. You have to run a school like a business. Sorry to say it, but if you're not financially responsible, it goes away. Business goes bankrupt. So UPK, bringing UPK, that's probably one of the most greatest things that should have happened. It should have happened a long time ago. Because then you would have your teachers, like you said, working with these other teachers so that they know what to expect in kindergarten and to be successful. Okay, so you have to probably have a little less resources as far as pushing into help, like better reading or so forth, because they're getting a good foundation right before they hit kindergarten. As far as the 7th and 8th graders coming over here, my couple of my kids were in varsity sports in 7th grade. So they were hanging out and with these kids. They were at the bus with these kids. They're not going to get any other education. They get more education on the bus that you're worried about than being. They're going to have a separate wing here. I mean, that is awesome. I mean, you have kids that I have 4 kids that went through this school. I have 2 grandchildren in this school, and hopefully, if the school survives, I'll have 2 more that I know of, and maybe more. I've worked there for 20 years. I've seen the writing on the wall. I really encourage this board to do the right thing and vote for the reshaping. Because people want to stay in their homes. We don't have a lot of two-family houses and rentals in this area. We have people that stay in their homes longer. And a lot of these people, some of them are elderly, they've had kids come through. I'm getting there, and I can't keep affording for these taxes to keep going up. It takes me right out of my house. My taxes have gone up 300% since I moved here in 1999. And everybody's worrying about the formula. The formula they use for this, for the budget, for the foundation, the aid, is so archaic that it needs to be addressed. So everybody that's up in arms, you need to reach out to your legislators, your governors, and say, hey, this is archaic, it's gotta be fixed. Class sizes, our class sizes are manageable. You go to other big schools, city schools, their classes got 30, 35 kids in them. I mean, come on, guys. Do you want a school? Do you want your kids to be here? You're worried about 7th and 8th? They're gonna have a wing, they're gonna be protected, believe me. I encourage you to please vote for the reshaping, for the district.
I think we're done budget talk. Is there a question that comes up? I'll be ready. Go ahead.
Thank you, Charlie. Kind of been, a couple years ago, I was in a position where I have a child who is autistic and ADHD and has an IEP 504. And we were in a position where we had to buy a house to get into the school district we wanted. Because we were in Europe Mills and it was not the district for us. When we came to Sequoia, I mean, above and beyond from our first interaction with Mrs. Perger and above, that I would hope that we would stay open because we need to stay open. It's a school that's sought after. I mean, I've had 2 friends enrolled children in here who have also become members of PTO and are active in our school. And just to see my son go through the whole process above and beyond. And I've seen friends go through Hartford and Clinton and they do not get the same treatment that they deserve and that they need. And I feel like we only get that because Sequoia is such a small school and because we do so well. And I think it's something that needs to stay open. Because if we had gone to Hartford or Clinton, it probably would have been horrendous. We've had nothing but amazing teachers from kindergarten to 3rd grade, nothing but amazing. And that's because of the teachers, and because of the school district. And if we end up having to close or merge or anything, our students aren't going to get what they deserve. But we have to stay open and we have to do restructuring because otherwise our students don't want that buffer. No matter what happens, either way.
Thank you.
But they need it.
In favor?
Reshaping is to move the 7th and 8th graders over first.
Yeah.
You know, moving our babies back to the elementary first. They say that no matter what policies program is going in there, special ed, tech. The majority of those students are junior high school age students, and I'm concerned that age gap, 6th grade, with that age gap, and building how we're gonna share common basis.
Fair question. Well, first of all, by moving 7 and 8, as Mr. Reed stated earlier, we can combine staff and they can all teach 6 different grade levels. That's the purpose of putting the whole high school certified staff together. We do not anticipate if we reshape the Sequoia Valley students sharing common spaces at the same time with the BOCES spaces. That's not to say they can't, but that the intent is not that they'll be sharing common spaces together.
So I just want to follow up. So for example, if there are high schoolers in that building and they need cafe vocational programming, I don't see how we can say that's confidence that they're not going to share things.
We don't anticipate vocational program in that building.
But students that will be there will need to go to vocational programs. So they'll need lunch periods at certain times, that would be the same as.
I would expect we would be able to schedule around that if needed to.
We schedule 7th and 8th grade lunches separate today, right?
I can believe that.
I got a question. Which sports team's gonna go? We have over 41 sports programs. We have around over 40. Which team's gonna go? We're talking about cutting staff, talking about cutting instructional staff, talking about cutting sports staff. Which team's gonna go? Since we voted to go over the budget cap last time, we have added athletics. We've added administrators. We shot ourselves in the foot. We added golf, we added JV baseball, we added JV softball, we added another administrator when we had people move on. Which team's gonna go? There's your tough decision.
So I will say, we looked at sports, we looked at athletics the other day. There's not a huge savings with athletics. It might be $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 tops to cut a sport. But that is something that's on the table. And if we were to cut athletics, it would start at the JV level, because then you could still have, you could offer modified that would go cover 7 through 9 and varsity that would cover 10 through 12.
All I'm saying is if you're talking about going and not filling instructional staff, and we've heard from people that talk about what a great place this is and what phenomenal staff we have. My daughter is extremely successful because of the staff. I mean, it sounds like we're nitpicking, dropping a bucket, but we've already talked about how some of the things are drops in the bucket, but all these drops add up to fill the bucket. Somebody's got to go. Somebody's got to go.
Right. As I said, we've talked about that, and that's why there's a line item on there regarding athletics to cut $10,000, $15,000. But again, we would have to cut, and correct me if I'm wrong, 12, 15 sports, maybe even more to accumulate the same total of one staff position.
I get that. But again, this is a longevity thing.
Right.
The longevity thing. We've been operating on the bubble or behind for years. And we keep adding.
Well, actually, we've been adding to our fund reserve, our fund balance for the last few years. This is the first year.
But what I'm saying is we're budget wise, our taxes go up. We add more programs. We just talked about how we have under 1,000 kids, right? Under 1,000 in our district. And we're supporting over 40 sports programs, athletics programs. Those numbers don't work. They really don't. I mean, I know it's about opportunities for the kids, and I get all that, but these aren't working. Not to mention travel costs are not going down. We have to travel. We've already talked about the officials are all getting raises. That's increasing our budget. And something's got to go. I mean, I'm not saying that we need to cut 15, but we need to make those decisions. I'm sorry, but that has to happen. You can't come to this community with people that are on the bubble. 40% or more of our citizens in this district are on the bubble of poverty, if not below that line. And your answer is 2.4%, 2.8%, 5%. If they're renting property and I'm the landlord, I'm raising your rent. They're out. You have elderly people in this community that are having to make the decision about what they can afford and what they can't because their tax bill has doubled. That's real life. And yes, we need to consolidate. We need to move these grades around. Otherwise, we're not going to make it. We're on the fast track to being a Mustangs. Absolutely.
Now I'm on the board, we're not gonna do it.
100%. We're on our way.
Our kids don't wear the blue and yellow.
But we have done everything we can to put ourselves here. We just haven't made those decisions along the way. We've added and continue to add and continue to add. So we have to start now scaling it back.
Well, and that's why I said, thank God, you know, I hate to say it, thank God we had nine staff retire this year, because that's gonna help us close the gap. Because the last thing we wanna do is cut current staff members, but that's an option. That's, has to be on the table.
I think it's time to vote on the kindergarten approval,
UPK.
UPK.
I thought, where they did that.
Did we act on that one?
Oh, UPK.
No, we did not.
Give elimination.
I asked you to elaborate. And we're gonna follow that up, and I'll ask the Board of Education to voice their vote, and we can move on. We need, item 9, Board of Education. Are you in favor of the approval to assume the operation of the universal pre-kindergarten program?
Yeah.
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Anyone opposed?
Wait. Somebody has to motion.
Any motions?
CJ.
AJ, Mrs. Familio, second. Mr. McClusick, all in favor? Okay. Sequoia Valley will assume operation of the universal kindergarten program. We'll move on to the approval of the district restructuring. I will be the first member.
Tony, hold on, this one we want, just one to say.
Did we skip over to be heard?
What do you got?
They.
Can I speak then? I've been waiting since I was being announced, so it's gonna be my, and I can speak.
Please.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And everyone here. So first, I'm just going to thank the Board of Education. I think sometimes you guys go unnoticed for your hard work and diligence, not just in the planning and input of the district restructuring proposal, but continuing to bridge the district's fiscal responsibility while upholding community values and advocating for our students. I am not going to pile it up. I am sorry if I get emotional. I work with these kids every day. So, you know, for us, it's in numbers. Every time you say a number of dollar sign, I'm seeing a child's face. These are my babies when they are with me. So a lot of this is hard to hear. So I come with a different lens. But a little background for those of us who might not know me. Sequoia's been part of my identity and values my entire life. Sequoia's my alma mater, having attended from pre-K to 12. I began my career here more than 18 years ago. Additionally, my own father was an employee and attended Sequoia for his. It is the place where I met my husband, and we chose to live and raise our family within this district. Professionally, I'm a little saddened to hear that it sounds like I'm going to continue to have to do more with less. Whether it's buying my own supplies, more kids in the classroom, that's a little hard. I mean, in these terms, but being in the school, just what we do every day to continue to meet our kids. With that being said, the idea of restructuring hits hard on both the personal and professional level. I wear many hats, those being a taxpayer, educator, and parent within this district. However, I stand in front of all of you with this pending decision weighs most on my parents' hearts. As a parent of a current 8th grader, 6th grader, and 2nd grader, this decision will directly impact my children, specifically my 6th grade. For those who might not remember or have chosen to forget, COVID has already impacted and affected our students in more ways than we can physically see. These same 6th graders who we are being proposed to the high school next year are the same students who had their kindergarten year disrupted because of COVID. Their start to their education looked vastly different than it should have, and in how their beginning years were shaped. So many times the word resilient is used to describe our children and how they cope with the different challenges and situations that are put in front of them. But are they truly resilient? If the mental health issues and challenges you're seeing are an indicator, I would say no. What does this have to do with restructuring? In my opinion, a lot. Research shows that middle schools where some students lose their sense of belonging and engagement with learning, all while juggling their hormones. Middle school is a transitional bridge that allows our children to develop their social and emotional skills in a setting that is developmentally and age appropriate for them. Instead, our district is proposing to send our 7th graders who have still not graduated from their fart jokes and with their impulsive and energetic personalities to join high schoolers within the same building. If we know anything about middle schoolers, we know it's their strong desire to be socially accepted. Mixing these impressionable 12 to 13-year-olds with much older students, possibly even students who are legal adults, will accelerate social pressures and will force these children to rapidly adjust to a culture that many are not ready for. Yes, our children may be exposed to much of this already through cell phones and social media. As a parent, I'm able to make that decision on how much my children are exposed to through phones and social media. For what it's worth, my sixth grader does not have a cell phone, and there's no plan for him to get one anytime soon. He tells us he's the only one in his grade without a phone. He's probably right, but that's my decision as a parent. Knowing that my sixth grader still has lots of growth to do in his mental and emotional development, I'm not ready to send him to the high school. However, if the district does restructure, it's a reality that my family will have to face and decide what's best for our child. And yes, I've begun to research the possibility of online schooling or homeschooling him, just because my child have the opportunity to flourish in a developmentally appropriate setting for him. While I know there are plans for 7th and 8th graders to be a bit isolated in the high school, let's be honest, there's no way to guarantee that 7th graders will not be mixed with 12th graders. Listening to the budget numbers and understanding that many positions are being absorbed through attrition, we will not always have the extra staff to keep everything dedicated to specific grade levels. In a few years, when the budget continues to be tight and more positions or courses are being eliminated and schedules are being reworked, there will not be guaranteed a way to guarantee the separation of specific grades. Excuse me. It has been said that the restructure will provide more opportunities for students in terms of courses. Yet the attrition of positions, such as the 2 in the elementary school not being replaced, will make it barely manageable to sustain current programs. And what will those additional courses look like in a few years when the budget continues to have a shortfall? My children do not need extra courses, more pep rallies, or workshops aimed at improving their mental and emotional well-being. My children, and I dare say all students, need the opportunity to be children and interact with each other. Unstructured time to talk, play, simply exist with their peers, allow them to build friendships, develop social skills, and learn how to navigate challenges naturally. Not every moment needs to be programmed or guided. Sometimes the best support we can give young people is a space to grow, explore, and experience childhood in a way that is authentic and balanced. And in my opinion, that means allowing our children to have a middle school experience. I hope that when you make your decision tonight, it's a decision made in the interest of what's best for our students and youth.
Thank you, Mr. Coletta.
Thank you. All right, so Board of Education members, I will give you an opportunity to cast your approval or not approval for the upcoming restructuring item on the agenda. I will begin. This is a very difficult decision. I have struggled with this for months, ever since we began the planning process for the awareness of the possibility. I voiced my concerns. My colleagues on the Board of Education knew exactly where I was coming from. This is a process, and I don't think we're ready for that process. I think we're rushing. We're rushing to judgment. Well, maybe this will happen, and maybe that'll happen. I don't see that right now. We made, in 1 month, we found $800,000 or a couple $100,000 short. Give us time. Give the board time. Give the community time. There's going to be some additional savings there, and if it requires a minimal tax increase, let's try it. Let's do it. But at least let's go through a process. I've heard a lot of positive comments and a lot of good comments. As an educator for my life, throughout my lifetime, there's something in my heart that tells me when you reconfigure, you might as well look down the road because you're going to reorganize somewhere down the road. And for the people that have fought throughout their career to find a home in Sequoia Valley, to raise their family here, it breaks my heart to tell them, inevitably in my heart, somewhere down the road, your child's going to graduate from Mount Markham, Waterville, excuse me. Or you know what happens in many cases? When they can't have that solution, they dissolve a district. And the southern part of the district goes here, and the northern part goes somewhere else. I don't want to face that. I think we need to give this very serious thought. There's a lot of things that we've done. I'm hoping there's more that we can do. The other thing is, BOCES is a Band-Aid approach to that building. If we contract with BOCES, it's not long-term. I don't believe it's going to be long-term because if you serve BOCES, your dream is to add on to Little Settlement Road and put an addition there. Why pay rent when you can house your students in your own property? I mean, those are all possibilities. And then we have a vacant building. We haven't explored that. What is it gonna do? What purpose is it gonna serve? Senior housing? No, we need a gym there. So we'll look 10 years down the road. Well, we stole the middle school, now we're gonna put an addition here to build a gym and maybe another small auditorium. What is that answer? We haven't looked at it. So my vote is, we're not ready, and I vote no. Mrs. Wagner? You want to think of it? I like, yes, I think they deserve an opportunity to explain.
I don't.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm gonna be much quicker than Tony's. I think we need to do something. I think this is a good. I think in some ways this is a good idea. I just don't have enough people. I don't have enough at this point to say yes. I'm gonna say no as well. But I'm gonna say, I think we need to do something. And next year, I think this year from now until next year, we're gonna have to have some discussions and talks as far as where we go with this. I can't say next year I would be. Next year, I don't know what I would be if we vote again, but I think I would definitely consider this proposal. But I don't have enough information, I believe, at this point to say yes, so I'm.
For all of the reasons you mentioned is why I am for reshaping. For all of the reasons you mentioned, because is the building eventually gonna close regardless if there's a plan to discuss 5th and 6th grade come to the elementary school eventually? I mean, what's 5 years? Let's say next year. We have to revisit this again. And what if people have to be laid off? Teachers have to be laid off. I'm gonna support the super and the administrative staff on this. I think it's the right.
So this was a very hard decision for me as well. Dave and Charlie, thank you for all the time you guys put into this, because there's a lot of effort that's gone into this. I got to say this, I've been in Sequoia my entire life. I lived here, I grew up here, I had 3 kids, well, one graduated this year, 2 graduated. Straight district, we all know that. The State of the Union of New York State school business is not good. They sent out the parent square message, it's not just Morrisville, it's Fort Plain, Lake Forest, there's a whole list of schools that you can list that are actually going through and closing elementary schools, etc. This did come up fairly quickly. And because of that, and because of what Tony's talking about, I'm gonna vote no as well. But I will say that, I don't want, this isn't a scare thing, this is not going away. You guys gotta accept, like those that do not want this, trust me, your kids will be fine. The plan that's in place that everybody has is there. But you can't resist what's going on.
Everybody stole everything I was gonna say. I think that this is such a difficult decision. And it doesn't matter if you are on board, if you're a teacher, if you're a resident, if you have students, you know, children, grandchildren, or if you don't and you're just living in the community. This is such a tough decision, and I'm so grateful you, David, and Charlie, and Brian, and the administrators that really worked so hard. The countless hours that you guys have, you know, utilized in trying to figure out something that can save Sequoia, that can save our integrity. This is such a difficult decision, so I just appreciate you guys so much for that. For me, I feel like I need more concise answers. I feel like just with the same thing as the electric buses, I was a hard no because I felt like there were too many unanswered questions for me. And if I make this decision, I want to represent the children. I want to represent the community. I want all of our administrators on board with this and support from everyone. For me, it's a no.
For me, flat out, I think it's a yes. I know that this is inevitable, it's gonna happen down the line. I don't want our kids to lose. stuff, because once you lose it, it's very hard to come back from there. So yes.
I guess it doesn't matter which way I vote. Me, right?
Yes.
I just wanna say, I am nothing if not true to my word. I was hard for reshaping. I told Tony that if there was any other way, I would keep a completely open mind, and if this was the gap year where we could make changes and squeeze the very last drop of juice out of this lemon and keep our students where they are this year in such a short turnaround, that I would be open to that. And Charlie has for this year been able to pull that out to a point. The board has been very transparent. We have been very direct in how we feel. We have given all of the information, and I think many of you thought we had already made our minds up, which is absolutely not the case. This will remain on the table, and I will tell you that whether we reshape or we don't reshape, the difficulty will be felt throughout the district. So just keep in mind, we're choosing our difficult this year. Next year, the conversation probably, and yes, Mr. Nicotero, I will not make next year's decision today. But next year's decision may look very much like we are reshaping because we don't have choices. We all got our energy bills, yes? And every single one of our energy bills went up. And guess what? So did the district's energy bill. And over the next 4 years, you're looking at $4,000 increases to households. And so is this district. And the money coming in is less. We have less coming in and more going out. And anyone that understands simple math understands that is not sustainable long term. And it does not keep us on a path to longevity to maintaining this district, which is ultimately every single person all the way along. That is the only goal, keeping the district intact. So while I am okay this year to vote no to reshape, it's not the future plan. So just keep that.
Are you good, Mrs. Good?
Or you need to make a motion.
And is there a motion then, please? Mr. Stefan, second. All in favor for the reconfiguration of the district?
Is it nay? Nay.
No, I said favor, all in favor. Three. All opposed?
I'm the only one. Wait, hold on a second.
All in favor? How many hands went up, all in favor?
We have 2 yes votes.
Yes, you don't, yeah.
We only have 2 yeses, that's why you don't even need to go a motion, because the answers can be
All right, do we have anything else?
Maybe it's not this, but you never know.
Well, open up for participation. Brenda?
I just wanna make sure this is done right, like, I know, so you made a motion, all in favor? I think there was confusion.
We're not reshaping this year, Brenda.
I just wanna make sure the vote went out there, that's all. I just wanna make sure.
When I asked we're all in favor.
I just wanna make a comment that I hope that BOCES is willing to do something when you need it, because the rope is here now. And you guys all let it slip through your hands. And I'm probably making enemies, and I'm sorry, but working here for 20 years, working for the senator for 8 years, and running a business, I don't think that you're making good financial choices. Sorry.
Thank you. Jeremiah?
Thank you. I appreciate the transparency, appreciate public comments, I do. Listening to your board comments just now, I'm disappointed that the majority of you selected to push this down, pick the bucket down the road. In essence, you all acknowledge that the budget is going to continue to be an issue. but then you choose to not be proactive and just disappoint.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
First, I'd like to say, Charlie, I think you nailed it. I really do. I think you did a great job. And I respect the board's decision on this because I do think that it maybe was a little rough. Time frame was extremely aggressive to move 7th and 8th grade over here with the logistical parts of it and trying to squeeze the round back in the square hole. As far as the budget is concerned, the budget is going to be here. Let's see what happens. BOCES is going to be here. Mr. Nicotera has put that out there. They're not building in the building tomorrow. It's going to be a bit before they decide they're going to do something like that. We're going to have those opportunities down the road and continue to have those opportunities. So I don't think we missed any opportunities here, but I think it gives us a better position to make honest decisions, accurate decisions, and be able to move this forward effectively and efficiently so we're not stripping over our own feet or creating problems that will only compound down the road. So I think this is, as much as I'm disappointed with it because it has to get done, I understand that, but I think this is a good decision in the alternative because you were looking at really only having about 6 or 8 weeks to do the move. That's going to be tough.
Well, I just want to be clear for those that are maybe a little bit disappointed. When I said we were squeezing the last drop of juice out of the lemon and
No, I get it.
there is a staged approach. It's not just we're not doing it, everything goes back to normal. It's a staged approach to get us to that long-term goal. What can we do in 1 year to make this work and look at that restructuring plan to make it much more efficient and comfortable?
And answer all of the unanswered questions.
Correct.
It's not a hard no, we're never doing this. It's a for me, I need more solid answers so that I can feel confident, because what I would hate to happen is for all of this work and all those hours that we spent and all those people that care, I would hate for us to rush into it and then to have it just completely fall apart and then something worse happens. So even if as to, Lynn's point, like next year, we're going to end up voting on it again. And, so this isn't a goodbye to this concept unless we can get some, more revenue and we can get more families, in the district. I mean, there are a lot of Hail Marys that we would need, but we're just looking for more of a solid plan, a strong foundation, so that if this merger happens, when this merger happens, we have built it strong enough that we can sustain it and move forward with it in a positive direction.
And Marita, just to respond to you, because I was for BOCES, as Mr. Staten said before, would be like, whoop, nope. I mean, that could be us. That could be, hey, I voted for this, and they're like, sorry, nope, not this year, maybe next year. So I mean, that's something to think about as well, because that has happened. That's all. So I mean, I'm trying to be objective as I can.
So next year, would you say you want BOCES to sign the commitment before you guys say we're gonna merge?
I don't say
They're not gonna do that.
I'm looking at today.
A lot of other vacant buildings that would be available for them to rent at a lot less of a cost than we're operating too, so that's a gamble that we're taking now.
Mike, go ahead.
Well, I said this last year, we've got 2 solutions here. One of them is more tax base. Raising taxes as it would. And more tax base means more people will move to the area. And the school board and all the school employees are not gonna get from people who move to the area. It needs to be some sort of concerted effort, guys, with town of Paris to market the area. We have.
Yeah, I think the challenge of the town of Paris is all the dairy farms we have, there's not enough farm. And they're sucking up every single ounce of.
There's industry moving into the area that people are looking for good school districts. I don't think town of Paris is marketing our school district to those people moving in.
But those giant companies get huge tax breaks too, and at the same time, go vote. You go and vote, the governor's coming out, so why don't you go and vote?
So that may be a stretch, but
Okay.
a tax base is needed, okay, and we are growing. But honestly, the real solution, and this was the exercise for that, okay, this was very abrupt, but very quick. The next one's gonna be way public, and you better start thinking about it now, and if you're not ready to, you probably get people on board. need merch, whether you like it or not. We're gonna need to merge. We need to look around the schools that are joining us, decide who's a friend of the school. And start figuring out how to assimilate the kids in the elementary school. So that they don't grow up hating each other like we do today when we go at the sport. So at some point in time, there's gonna need to be schools, people from Waterville, or people from Frankfurt, or people from Hartford that are already mixing with our kids. I know nobody wants to hear that, that's inevitable. Okay, this financial problem is not gonna change. So point God, I like to think we save our name, we better look at who's the weaker school district, and we can have our name be the lead name instead of the back end. Right? Instead of the Eagles and the Red Hawks or the Raptors. All right. Well, whatever. There needs to be something looking forward to what that place is.
Sir, Mr. Lebron.
Yeah, I just want to thank everybody for their hard work. Preparing the transparency. It's very clear, right? This is gonna come, we can't avoid it. So I guess I would ask you over the coming year, if you can help maintain the conversation. I think really the thing is helping people come to an understanding. We can just understand what the situation is. That we have the year is too long. Very confident that we'll have much more informed and maybe make the decision next year.
We appreciate that, because I'll tell you, Little Falls sent their district a letter and told the people we're consolidated. There was no sit down, there was no conversation, they got a letter. They're like, this is happening, and this is not something we want to be about.
I just want to say, oh, go on.
Sorry, Mr. State, you and I talked, and I think it goes to your comment, that, I just would appreciate that open conversation, that, I mean, we had one forum, and that was it. I was waiting for the next forum, so we could, I would like to hear what other people say, like, I want to hear other people's thoughts, so it helps to influence, like, am I on the right track? What am I thinking? Hearing that, like, we're going to be thinking of this again, I mean, having one forum and sending surveys, I mean, that's how rumors start, without having this open, field where we can talk to each other, hear other people. I mean, I've heard so many rumors, not knowing what was true. We need that open communication, and I mean, just to be told, on Facebook and social media, that's not regular. I want to actually hear, real things. And so, I mean, going forward, going to be important that I think to have more of those forums, some kind of base where we can meet and hear others' opinions is not.
Every board meeting would be that.
We have a board meeting.
Every board.
Like once a month, if not twice a month, and I can tell you, I know, other than the ones that we've had since the reshaping came up, the only people that are attending are the principals, Ms. Perger, Ms. Baggy.
There you go.
Yeah, that and Mr. Reed, like, that's the extent of the people that show up. Once in a while, you get maybe parents will show up because their kids are getting recognized for a program. But honestly, the masking, I think, was the last time that I saw us have to use the auditorium or something like a meeting, but nobody comes until they're up and arms about something. They're definitely not coming on a regular
It
basis.
should be noted that there's two public to be heard, so you can stand up and have your piece, hear all of us speak, and then maybe change your mind and throw your hand up again and maybe say, I changed my mind, or I disagree with what I said prior. So there's plenty of opportunity for folks to come in and talk.
Give me if I'm wrong, but the public to be heard, you guys are not supposed to be answering questions. It's just me stating, like, I'm asking for an open communication place. And then to me, when a board of education, I read every agenda coming out, I ask questions. I mean, it's a set agenda. I'm asking for more of that open communication where, if I say something to be heard, I mean, you guys are not supposed to be.
Well, that's the credit debate, you would hear from the president.
I think that type of forum, Jackie, would be much different. I think at a regular board meeting, we're advised by state law not to rebuttal.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to get into that confrontational contest. We don't want that. But if we set up an advisory committee and we schedule a dozen meetings over the course of a year, looking to make a decision at the end, I think that's an open forum where we welcome that participation. And the other thing is, and we've talked, if we take that format, we want people from all walks of life. We want the farmers here who have no children, have no ownership. We want the young family that just bought their home, whose kids are gonna start kindergarten within a year. We want a diverse group of representation, so that would be a wish, but I think you're gonna see that in the future. Yes, sir.
Yeah, again, I appreciate everybody's work on the board over there. I do appreciate especially trying to close that funding gap. And that is great, because I do not want to exit rates at all. I hope that the board and everybody explores every option to maybe other than these coming through. Because if you can find that another way to do it. It seems like it's not being received too well. At least that's what I'm hearing. And to hope that taxes don't get raised is probably not realistic. But I hope that they don't. Like this gentleman said about bringing people into the district, there can be communication with town of Paris. It is a big deal. I do have rental property in Sequoia. I'm going to tell you, I use a company, Apartment Connection. I had a line to rent my house to get, and their reason for the split school district.
Exactly.
And I'm just telling you, if there could be more, they wanted to buy, there is not availability. There just is. So if the tax base is not going to increase, and this is where it's like a catch-22 for all of you, you increase taxes, nobody likes that either. And then you talk about, hey, there's snow and going to Florida, you know. But that is true amongst all of you. And there's other places that would tell you, like downstate, like you're living the dream because their taxes are so much higher. But I do not want to see taxes raised. And I understand it sounds like trying to have the best of both worlds. But that I appreciate you trying to take the bull by the horns, but it just did seem rushed. And I'm glad that because of that. But I am open to closing that logic gap. That's it. I appreciate everything.
Thank you. I just want to say kind of very quickly, I'm not just Superintendent Staten, I am David Staten, father to be, who's a student at Sequoia, and husband to Connie, who's a teacher. So I just appreciate the respectful discourse that we've had over the couple meetings that we've had in here, because I was very nervous coming into the first forum, because there was some, there was some chatter on Facebook, and those people aren't very nice when they're anonymous. But I just want to say I just appreciate as I said, the respectful discussion that we've had. That being said, I know raising taxes isn't popular, but we do have a $216,000 budget deficit that we have to fill right now. And that's either, unless there's another way, I don't know, it's either increasing taxes or reducing current staff. So that's what we're looking at. So on that note, I invite you all back here on March 24th for the next budget workshop and board meeting. And before that, tomorrow night, we have a local pop concert right here in the auditorium. So I welcome you to that as well.
We thank you again, and need a motion to adjourn, please. I see your hand, but I can't see your face. No, no.
Ron,
CJ. Made the motion, Mr. Curtelli, second by Mr. Familiar. All in favor to adjourn? We stand adjourned.